Pretty solid favourite this, Boston Rocker, Shane Foley riding, coming from stall 6, a 7-4 shot. That's how they bet for the 220 a day.
Hayley Turner's just making her way over from the presentation position. Busy afternoon for her at Newbury today. It's just got off to the perfect start. Hayley, can we just grab a quick word? It was quite a nice performance from Valet Girl there. The cheek piece has just woken her up a little bit.
Yeah, I think at home she's always shown a bit, but she's been a little bit disappointing. But she's also learning, and she's quite weak, so she's maturing as well. But I think they've certainly helped, yeah.
She doesn't look as though she's short of pace. Is 6 furlongs going to be a trick for the time being, do you think?
Yeah, she's got plenty of boot, and I don't know if she'll necessarily need the sheepskins on again. They seem to have done the job, and she would have learnt a lot from that. But I think 6 is fine for now.
Okay, and are these her underfoot conditions ideally?
Yeah, it's really nice ground actually.
Is it?
Yeah, really good ground. So it's ideal for her.
Okay, so it's the start of a busy afternoon for you. It's got off to the perfect start as well. Chance later on in these colours in Flash Heart. What chance of him following in his father's footsteps of Nayef and winning the Haynes, Hanson and Clark stakes?
Yeah, it's Mr. Tregonning obviously has a good strike rate in that race, and I do think he's one of his better ones. Obviously, he wouldn't have ran a minute otherwise. But it's a very competitive race, and obviously the others have got experience under the belt, so we'll have to see.
So, fingers crossed. What about some of the other rides later on? What do you think is going to be the pick of them?
Probably, I quite like Boom and Bust. He's a nice horse. He's stepping up an extra furlong, and
he was staying on at Haydock, wasn't he, without quite getting into the race on quick ground last time?
Yeah, exactly. I hope it's quick enough for him. I mean, he'd like it like a road, okay. And they're just getting their toes in a bit, so that's probably not as quick as ideal, but he's still in with a chance. So.
Okay, and you got Silver Heels as well a little bit later on.
Yeah, I've rode him a couple of times, and he's ran well for me. Again, a competitive race, so I'm not quite sure. I haven't rode him recently to confirm his form at the moment, or his well-being. So.
Okay, well done with Valet Girl. Best of luck later on.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks.
Well done to Hayley Turner, winning that race at Newbury. We're going back to air now for the South Ayrshire Cup. As listed 2-year-old event, Boston Rocker 7-4. Still very solid. 4-1 Faithfully, Garswood 6s, 8s Rivellino, Zula 8s, 10s New Pearl. Bit of money for that. 14s All Fur Coat and Lady Ibrox 16s.
So we touched on Boston Rocker, who's your 7-4 favourite, and proven in the ground and adaptable with the pace for 5 and the strength for 6. So she's solid. Shane Foley's ridden her before. Eddie Lynham in form with the sprinters. We touched on Garswood as well. What about Faithfully, who's pretty tough and consistent, and already has a pattern win to her name, albeit abroad, Graham?
Yeah, she's been busy, but she hit a new level in 2 runs in France, both on an easy surface, and that's form that would give her a chance here. But what happened last time out in the Sarina Stakes at Kempton, very different surface, maybe forced a bit wider than ideal, but the long and the short is she ended up a fair way below foal. So back on a straight course, back on an easy surface here, might well see Faithfully blossom again. But I must admit, my interest lies above her and below her in the market, Boston Rocker and Garswood.
Who we've touched on already. Rivellino's an interesting one. Carl and Elaine Burke looking for a quick fire double. He's shaped with a good deal of promise, having got a bit edgy before the start of that race down at Ascot.
Did he? I didn't realise that. He did shape with ample promise. 3rd in the Ascot maiden won by Muhajim, and there was money for him, which seemed significant. He looked fine in the paddock. He's not the best looker, but he looked in good condition. Stable, obviously got the horses primed for this fixture. Impossible to know how he'll cope with this ground. Time should be revealing here. If you're thinking about potential ground considerations here, there's a slight breeze against, but I'd say it's very, very slight. Standard time here for 2-year-olds over the 5 furlongs is, I think, 58 dead for juveniles. I think we'll be looking at more like 64 or 65 seconds in all probability. So there we have Rivellino blanketed before he goes behind the stalls. Speed here highly likely to come from 2 horses. I think Lady Ibrox is fairly one-dimensional in terms of tactics. She's very speedy, and I don't think Boston Rocker will be too far behind her.
Strictly on form, some will have a look at Zula, who's only had the 2 starts, opens improvement, only has a length and 3/4 to make up on your 7-4 favourite Boston Rocker. Big disparity there.
Yeah, and it's less than half a second, but when I had a look at the video of that performance at Tipperary, enlisted company, with plenty of giving the ground, I thought it's probable that Boston Rocker will confirm that form. You're right to mention that she is lightly raced, but based on that single piece of evidence, I would suspect Boston Rocker has bright prospects of beating Zula again.
New Pearl is in there as well, around about 9-1, who's been to quite a few of the big gigs.
Representing Pearl Bloodstock, great to see David Redwoods and Sheikh Fard here today, spreading the love north of the border. As for New Pearl, he looked really promising early on. He looked a certain winner in very deep ground at Newcastle and fell in a hole in the final furlong. And since then, good performance in a Goodwood handicap of 87, then well beaten in that big York Sales race. So he looks a bit hit and miss, but there is money for him. 9s from 14-1.
And Graham Lee on board as well. Lady Ibrox has been really tough and consistent throughout the season towards the bottom, and All Fur Coat, who won the Lily Agnes early in the campaign.
You generally need to break the 100 barrier on the BHA strong time form scale, Racing Pulse rating scale, to win this. Between 100 and 110 generally the winners. The form choice has to be Boston Rocker, but we have potential horses like Garswood, and we should get a true test with Lady Ibrox going in. She's very speedy, and in the black and white Lady O'Reilly hoop colours, I would think that Boston Rocker, wherever Lady Ibrox goes, she won't be far behind.
In a word, is Garswood quick enough?
It remains to be seen. It's much more about connections of him, opinion of him, than what he's shown so far, but I think the very presence here suggests that he's a pretty good horse.
Last one in. Here's Simon.
They're ready. And off and racing. Boston Rocker in the black and white hoop jacket, just slightly edged out between All Fur Coat and Lady Ibrox. All Fur Coat leads Lady Ibrox. Faithfully in the yellow sleeves, then Boston Rocker with the white face out wide Zula. Then the red jacketed Garswood. Rivellino is second last, and New Pearl at the back in this Shadwell stud Harry Rosebery Stakes. All Fur Coat leads the way by 3 parts of a length. The Faithfully away to the right. Lady Ibrox tracks these with Boston Rocker. Zula, Rivellino is pulled to the outside in purple sleeves, and Boston Rocker also angled out now. The leading bunch are chased by New Pearl and Garswood as they race inside the final quarter. Faithfully maybe just the leader now. Heads All Fur Coat. Zula putting in a big run. Then Boston Rocker, Lady Ibrox. Garswood will challenge very wide, entering the final furlong, and it's the Irish trained filly Zula that leads the way, chased by compatriot Boston Rocker and Garswood on the outside. Zula and Garswood. Garswood's finishing very strongly. Stays on Durley and will get there. Garswood won the Harry Rosebery. Ran down Zula into second. Then came Boston Rocker and New Pearl in fourth.
Garswood manages to get his head in front. Maiden into a listed race. And that tall reputation that preceded him has been cemented with a win here in the Shadwell stud Harry Rosebery, taking Zula in the closing stages, and then back in third was Boston Rocker, fourth to New Pearl, who slightly missed the kick alongside Rivellino, and it was hard work for that pair from the back of the field thereafter. Your winner is in the red, 3 from the back, outpaced in the early stages. That was my concern, Graham, today, but his natural abilities got him through
in the end, and he's needed a full test at this trip. So it's 2 Garswood, beats 10 Zula, beats 7 Boston Rocker, beats New Pearl and Lady Ibrox. You can see that he's not in a promising position at the moment. Left of picture Garswood. He's been pushed along early. Now he needs an out because there's no room at the inn on the near side. Bit by bit, Hamilton edges him off the rail. At this point, Zula and Robert Winston kick for home. They go at least 2.5 clear. No excuses for Boston Rocker in pursuit of the leader. Can't go by. Garswood can. Very strong in physique, very strong in terms of run style late on. Nails Zula late on, wins without a great deal in hand, but wins in the style of a horse who just will keep getting a bit better and a bit better. I like him.
I think there's loads more to come from this guy. Physically, he's got the right frame to develop, and it may just be him. I did see him at Goodwood, but it sort of escapes me. It may be him. He may be the type to carry condition, but he almost was today. You'd be hopeful there's tons more to come. That's really pleasing. He's picked up Zula, and he's beaten the more experienced heavy ground performers like Boston Rocket, and he's done it very much on top in the closing stages. So, exciting times enough for Garswood. It's one for David and Emma Armstrong up in Scotland, and the SP coming up next.
Alex, some interesting stuff going on in running there. The second horse traded at 101, traded at the minimum for 600 quid, was traded at that price, and the winner there in shot, Garswood, for small money, traded at 69 to 1. 5 to 1 was his returned SP, a winner for Tony Hamilton and Richard Fahey. Zula 8 to 1 second, Boston Rocker 7 to 4 favourite was third. 8 ran, non-runners 1 and 9. And Garswood's time 1 minute 2.94, just over 5 seconds slower than standard.